Welcome to Gold Derby's hair and makeup design panel with Emmy nominees. I'm David Buchanan, joined by Jake Garber, the special makeup effects department head of Fallout. Jake, first and foremost, congratulations. I think this is your 10th Emmy nomination. How does it feel to not just have that many wonderful acknowledgments of your work, but for this series in particular, what's unique about this nomination versus the other work that you've done?
I think all of them have their own, special place. Obviously, the first one was obviously a nice little treat and surprise. And it's just happy to be included in a lot of these events like this, because again, it's the people that we're going up against is some fine work as well. So I'm happy to be there for the party. But it stands out. It's a first show, that didn't have some sort of gruesome aspect to it like Walking Dead that I was nominated for a while back. But yeah, it's a treat to be involved.
Yeah, I wanted to mention Walking Dead because I think I had read that you wanted to do something not so similar to Walking Dead. And maybe at first this, sounded like it would have some overlap. But what exactly sold you on the idea of joining Fallout?
I was actually in London working on a project, and I got a call from Jim Scotchtopole, who I'd worked with in the past. And he brought up this show Fallout based on a video game. I'm not a gamer, so I really wasn't aware of it per se. I think I had heard of it, but didn't know about the nuances of it. And mentioned that they wanted to do this character, the Ghoul. And I basically said I'm not interested. I've done my share of gruesome, zombie type things for a number of years on Walking Dead, 8 years actually. And I was looking to, probably, branch off into something different. And then Jimmy said, good, that's what we were hoping you would say, because they did not want to have anything that was going to be gruesome or off-putting or anything like that. And matter of fact, Jonah was very kind of adamant about Walton being, quite desirable in the thing. So they sold me on that. And when they mentioned they were thinking about getting Walton involved, who was not attached at that point, I was very pleased because I've known Walton for a number of years. We're very good friends. And I did kind of give him a heads up that Walton doesn't necessarily like to sit still for that long. I always say he's got rabbit in his blood. So just, this will be a little bit of a process in the chair. But, they sold me on that. And with Walton's involvement, they got me. I'm in.
What do you love most about working with Walton? I know you've worked on many projects with him. So what is it about him that is such a great canvas for your designs and your artistry?
Well, structurally, he's got a great face for doing, prosthetic work on, because he's got a, good lean face. Because one of our cardinal rules is you can add, but you can't take away, with the exception of his nose. So he has a good face to work with. And we get along great. Rarely have there been, I honestly can't think of any sort of disagreements we've ever had while he was in the chair or anything like that. And when Vincent Van Dyke was brought in to design the Ghoul and build the prosthetics for it, I'd worked with Vincent on Last Days of Ptolemy Gray with Samuel Jackson, and definitely want to get him involved with it as well, because he does some primo work coming out of his shop. And he was very happy to oblige, and we both had the same opinion of Walton's, structural base to work with. And Vincent did a fine job with obviously Walton and Jonah's input, obviously, collaborating with everybody, that they were able to still be able to see Walton through that makeup, which was paramount.
You mentioned you maybe knew Fallout, you're not a gamer yourself. And Vincent did some of the initial designs of what the Ghoul would look like based on the video game. How much research did you do on like the universe and the franchise of Fallout just to get yourself acclimated enough to take his designs and then, put it into, your own kind of, do what you wanted to do with it?
Absolutely nothing. I did not do any sort of look into the video games per se, because it was almost above my pay grade, because there were designers from the video game production team, had designers as well. Vincent was obviously involved, Jonah's obviously involved, and all that. So there was a point where it's just like they've got enough information to go off of there. And I was in discussion with Vincent regarding, sort of technical aspects of like, well, this would be a good break point in the makeup here. Let's see if we can do that. So there was a collaboration there, but it was primarily, Jonah Walton and Vincent that were involved with that portion of the design. Once Vincent got the sculptures done, snuck in and we started to, look at things and say, can we make this thinner? Can we, texture this out a little bit? So it was that sort of a collaboration.
Yeah, one more question on the goal before we move on. It's such intricate and nuanced and just brilliant work. What was most important for you about getting right about this particular design?
I think I think a lot of it was I kind of wanted to treat this like a character makeup. Going back to what I said earlier about not wanting to have something that was, grotesque or unappealing. I mean, there's definitely some, off-putting elements to them, but it's not anything that's going to have people recoil in horror for it. But I think a lot of it had to do with one, making sure that, production and Walton were pleased with the results. And because if there was any sort of hesitation of like, I don't know about this, am I reading through this? It would have been lost at that point. And definitely wanted to get everybody on board as far as like, okay, everybody's comfortable with, I don't want this to be an inconvenience or a hindrance to either the filming process or, Walton's process or my process in the application. So, yeah. And a lot of it had to do with trying to get it done quickly so I could get Walton on set rather than having him spend a fair amount of the day in the chair.
You're Emmy nominated for the season finale called The Beginning. What
Mhm.
about that episode stands out to you as the most kind of noteworthy or work of the season, or what are you most proud of in that installment of these episodes?
Well, I mean, if you look at the series, his on-camera time was kind of minimal actually in the whole thing. And what I liked about it was there was, sort of the revelations that happen about his past, Lucy's past, and then the involvement of the feral ghoul that was in there as well. Because yes, we did have ghouls that were utilized in prior episodes, but it was stuff that was kind of very fleeting and really was it was a kind of a brief chunk, if you will. And obviously the Fallout world has a ton of ghouls, which I'm assuming we'll probably see more of on season 2, but that's not having seen any scripts, no idea, but I can only guess. But I think it was, Walton, per usual, had a fantastic performance in that. And Chelsea, who played our Farrakul, did a fantastic job in the thing as well. So I just thought those elements, and we did have another makeup effect on there where Kyle gets shot in the cheek. So that was sort of an incidental thing, but it was more about Walton on that one.
I love even the work in the premiere episode with Monty. That's just some incredible work as well. Are there other moments in other episodes that you look back on and are particularly happy with the way they came out and fond of?
Well, there was the scene with the ass jerky scene where one of the guys gets is dispatched and they get some takeaway foods out of him and all that stuff. That was actually a great scene as well, and that was one that was in consideration for one of the episodes to be included, but subsequently decided on 8. But honestly, I was pleased with all of it. I mean, there wasn't anything that made me kind of go, I wish. You always wish you could do something a little different or a little better, a little quicker, but you have to basically stop yourself and say, this is really good. We're good. Accept that.
I believe you're in an episode as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm hoping for the spinoff to continue on with it. No, yeah, I was the chicken farmer in episode 2, and I won't claim that it was like, we got to get Jake for this part. What it really came down to was they wanted to have John Daly and some more stuff, and it was going to be in Namibia, and getting the work visas and travel situation, there would have been, a bit of a hindrance. And I don't even think we could have done it in the time involved. So Graham had come up and approached me about it. And I said, yeah, I'd be happy to do it. However, 2 things. One of them, I won't do it the same day that Walton's working because that's my main job. So I'll get him done. And, I am a member of SAG, so it wouldn't just be like, hey, cool, let's have one of our buddies on camera. So, and I'd been on camera a few times in the past. And Jimmy Scotch DePaul had known that I had done some on-camera stuff in some Quentin films. So he said, yeah, he can hold his own. He's not going to win any acting awards, but he can hold his own.
Before I let you go, I do want to ask you, you mentioned season 2, you haven't seen any scripts, but is there something in your mind that you're hoping that you get to do without really knowing maybe the direction of where it's going? What do you want to do with your craft in season 2 that you're hoping you have the chance to do?
Honestly, no expectations. My hope is that when we start getting the scripts, that we see something that it's like, oh, this could be really exciting thing to do. And I kind of leave it up to Graham and Geneva to come up with those challenges and tasks for us. So that's kind of the hope, because honestly, I've done a fair amount of different types of makeups and prosthetics, obviously, and let's see where you're leaning towards right now. So and then dive in on it.
Jake Garber, congratulations on the first season of Fallout, and congratulations on the Emmy nomination.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Gold Derby's hair and makeup design panel. I'm David Buchanan, joined today by Sean Flanigan from the Gilded Age. He's the hairstyling department head. Sean, first and foremost, I feel like the Gilded Age season 2 is so much bigger than season 1, even though season 1 itself was quite grand in its scale. What were you most excited to tap into and explore when you heard about the arc of the season and started seeing those scripts?
Well, season 1, we were dealing with COVID, so everything was much smaller and tighter. When we got the scripts for season 2, it was a little shocking because everything had multiplied immensely. So the first episode, which the nomination is for, is the Easter bonnet, and that was quite overwhelming because it wasn't just one church; it was 3 different churches, and all on the same Sunday. So obviously we had numerous wigs, and when you're having different class levels that you have to design for, that was quite a challenging journey to undertake, and it was quite exciting. So that was really fun to have to come up with all those different levels of styles for those looks. So
yeah, let's dive into the episode. It's called You Don't Even Like Opera. It's the season premiere. And as you said, it opens with this lavish Easter Sunday procession, all these different families, 3 different congregations. I wanted to start by asking you, there are not just so many principal performers in that sequence, but so many background actors. How much time did you have to prep? And then how did you bring all of that to life? Because you do see so many folks in those churches and on the street. It's a joyous segment, but how long did you have to get that right?
We have about, for the beginning, for the first episode, we usually have about a 6-week lead time into prep for our season. So that gave us a good head start on getting our heads wrapped around what we were going to have to produce. It really was not as challenging for us with our principal characters because we've already established them in season 1. So we kind of knew those people already. So any of the new characters that were coming in, we had to really dive into and develop. As far as the background, we have an amazing team that we bring with us, and they've been with us in season 1, so they know the look. And as far as a designer, one thing I can do, and I work really hand in hand with my makeup partner, Nikki Liederman, we actually work so tight together in developing the looks and the characters. And then we also fall into a process with our costume designer, Kasha, because both of the hat, I mean, in our period, hats are so integral in our look. Any of the women, if they go, just because of what they do in the period, women would not go outside without a hat on. It's just part of the culture and the classes, what they have to deal with. So we really have to design around that process. It really was fun to come up with all of those looks, but again, it takes a complete village, and I've said this over and over again. As a designer, I really try to come up with a concept and give my team guardrails. So we each have specific characters that we are responsible for that I kind of allot out, and I let my team go for it. And I, obviously I keep an eye on everything and keep everything within those guardrails, but that way, because of the scope and the size of our cast, there's not a cookie cutter style that fits, like one hand does not touch everybody. It's a team. And that's what I think is the magic of our show, because it does take a village to get this project together. So, I mean, costumes, wardrobe, our whole production team, it's, and we're in the middle of season 3 right now. And so everyone came back. Grip, Electric, our whole entire production team is back. And we've become so tight as a family. And I think it really reflects in the work.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about working with the costumes on that sequence, because as you said, so many hats. And when I talked to Kasia Valiska-Momon, your costume designer, she had said she wanted to just keep making the hats bigger and bigger and grander. How much does that change what you do with the hairstyling? I mean, I have to imagine until she's got the final look, you're not quite sure what you're going to do with the hairstyles.
Well, the one thing that we learned with Kasia is that she's really collaborative. It's really fun, because what we'll do is we get our costume boards a couple days in advance, so we know what the hats are looking like. So when we start designing, and the hair for this period is designed around the hat. So sometimes if you look at some of our women without the hats on, the hair is going to be set off to the side because the way the hats have to sit on and balance. So it's really kind of crazy to see them without the hat on sometimes. But yeah, you really have to take a look at the hat and see, okay, where is this going to sit? How is this going to sit? Where do I have to add hair? Because these women every woman is in a wig. There's hundreds of hair pieces going around. And we constantly saying, okay, we need to add another piece here just to support the hat. Especially the Easter parade stuff. That was crazy. It was really fun. It's like a jigsaw puzzle put in. Amazing.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. And watching it unfold on screen is so exciting. It's a great way to kick off the second season. I believe this is your 4th Emmy nomination. You have 2 this year, one for Gilded Age and one for Feud, Capote versus the Swans. And earlier in your career, you've also done a lot of other period TV work and whatnot. What about working in different periods and in eras really excites you as a hairstylist?
I don't know how I ended up in period. I mean, I'm a musical theater kid, so I just grew up watching old movies, and I just love the style and the shape. And as I tell, Nikki, my makeup artist that I work with, she's the department head makeup. She's more of a painter. She's great with color and texture, and I'm much more shape and dimension. So it's a really nice balance working with someone that has that eye that can complement you. It's fun. I mean, 50s and 60s, because of Mad Men and a few other things I've done, it's kind of fun to play with. So I just you get a sense and a feel of the period and the costumes and the style. I generally, if I've done contemporary shows, I kind of get lost. I always feel like, am I doing enough? I mean, okay, I'm putting someone in a ponytail. Is that am I not supposed to set it or curl it or do something? So as a hairstylist, I kind of love and have a passion for the period things, just because I feel there's more work that has to go into it. Just in my own experience, everyone has their own, experiences. Some people love contemporary, and it's beautiful. I just get lost sometimes, I think, but I've done it and it's really fun, but I generally always fall back into a period somehow.
When you started on season 1 of the Gilded Age, what kind of research did you do to understand exactly what these characters, what the hairstyles would look like at the time? And then you're also dealing with, just as I said earlier, so many different characters of different social stations and classes. So what was your research process like in terms of, delving into all the rich material that's out there?
Season 1 was a little crazy because I came into the show with, I think, like 4 days before we started shooting. It was a quick change in the department, and I literally was a deer in a headlight. I was literally depending on everyone around me to say, where's your research? What am I looking at? Again, because I'm so visual, I really will look at images and pictures and paintings, and I pull and I'll sculpt and I'll change dimensions and pieces to create the look. What I found interesting with the research, I did through a lot of Vanity Fair magazines, period things. There are tons of pencil sketches of costumes and women in hats, and there are references of hair pieces and switches and all these clusters that were styled for the period. And so there's reference photos in research books all over the place that you can find. And so I really went that direction. So I took images and started playing with shape and balance on the wigs. And then as far as designing, we have the new money and the old money, and then we also have the working class, and then we had the black cast. So we have all these different levels. And so the old money, I kept them a little, I set them back, I don't know, 10 years. So instead of 1882 or 1884, we went back to 1870. So I kept them a little old, a little staunchier feeling. The new money we played around with. We took the best example is Carrie Coon. We glamorized the period a little bit, I think. I mean, it's a TV show. We wanted to romanticize it, make it, palatable, because this period was very frizzy and rough texture. And the women were like, in my cast, were like, please don't make us wear that. So we played around with like Carrie's hair. She has a kind of a 40s feel, but then it's period shape. So it's the aesthetic is there, but it's got a little fun play with it. And then the kitchen staff, we basically kept them a little fuzzier and rougher and not so polished and clean. So we created the different levels in each world of our design.
Sean, congratulations on the Gilded Age season 2, and congratulations on the Emmy nomination.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Gold Derby's hair and makeup design panel with Emmy nominees. I'm David Buchanan, joined by Peter Swords King of True Detective Night Country. Peter, first, I want to congratulate you. I believe this is your first Emmy nomination.
It is indeed. Yes, I was very surprised and very happy.
How exciting is it for not just the recognition, but for this series in particular? How gratifying is that to receive acknowledgement?
Well, okay, so this is my first TV series that I've ever done, because I've only ever really done film. Yeah, and it's fantastic being honest, because having not done TV before, I didn't realize how much hard work it was, and actually how much of an easier time we have in film, I think. So no, it was fantastic, because the team, I took one person with me from the UK, and then the rest of the team we found out in Iceland, and we all worked very hard. They worked incredibly hard and just, I mean, we read a script of a film, it's around 120 pages, and you start a breakdown. We had 6 episodes. Each script's about 75 pages. So suddenly, just the breakdown alone before you start anything else and deciding what you're going to do, it was mammoth. I take my hats off to people who do a lot of TV, because it's very hard and you have to work very fast, I discovered.
I want to ask you about your film background, because you've done so many fantasy films, and although Night Country has a lot of realism, it's very dark, kind of gritty series. There is some supernatural elements to it. Did anything that you've done in your past in fantasy film, kind of influence your take on those elements of True Detective?
So no, not really, because it was interesting, because I read the script. When I read the scripts, should I say, but I read the first one before I was interviewed. And what was really, really fantastic was I was so intrigued. It was so up my alley. I mean, sort of reading I like to do is, I mean, it felt to me when I read the script, I was reading a book in some respects. So I was completely desperate to get onto the next script and find out what happened. And of course, you get to the end, and it's lovely, because you really don't think that was what it was. You imagine those other things. And the slightly supernatural thing of the whole series is, because it's tied back to the other series as well. Sort of certain emblems and stuff. It's gone through the whole thing. I just laughed. I sort of, in that sense, yeah. I mean, when I first did Lord of the Rings and stuff, it was the fantasy, it was the imagination, because the one thing that is really good about doing something like this is trying to get your audience to imagine, and and I'm sure they were all imagining everything and not realizing what the true story was. You don't find out until episode 6. Even my wife was going, "Oh my God, no, I didn't believe it was going to be that," So the supernatural thing is one, it sort of is true, 2, it's a little bit of a red herring, but 3, it keeps your interest going through it. And actually, is it a red herring or is it, you don't know, which is really, I mean, I love that. I mean, I love it when it sort of doesn't sort of just cut off and go, oh, it's all tied up and done. You come away thinking about something. So, I mean, for that reason, I really did enjoy it. And yes, I suppose, working on other fantasy movies that I've done, yeah, there's that element of sort of suspense and sort of almost disbelief and getting people to believe something that might not be true, or it might be, you don't know. And it's very useful and it's great fun.
I think the whole visual aesthetic of this season was so remarkable and unique. And I wanted to ask you, what was it like? What direction and inspiration did you get from Issa Lopez on exactly how to approach the material to kind of fit into the mood of the entire arc?
Sure. I mean, the whole thing, we're talking with Issa, and when we actually started work on it in Iceland, she said to me, I want everything to be real. I don't want to have to go back when I go into the studio to then do an effect. She said, I want to see everything in front of the camera. And it's like, because not nowadays you say, oh, we won't bother that. The visual effects are going to do that bit, or visual effects are going to do that. She said, no. I mean, obviously she did use some, but as far as the makeup and hair and that went, she went, no, I really don't want to. I'd like to, when I'm filming, see it. I don't want to imagine it there. So that was quite an order. I went, oh, okay, fine. So we've actually got to do absolutely everything. Okay, that's fine. And so then, and some bits were quite gruesome. I mean, they weren't held on for a long time, but when the body of the girl has been stabbed 36 times with a drill bit, and the drill bit being square, not round. And so we had to do a lot of experimentation of getting all those pieces made, and getting them to look real. And we found, with this type of film they were using, some blood been a bit black and all that. So we did a lot of testing. But to make it gruesome, I mean, I haven't had so much fun. I mean, I really haven't had so much fun at sort of making people look really disgusting.
The episode you're nominated for is part 5 in the contemporary category. What about that installment? I mean, story-wise, it's incredibly climactic and very exciting. What about that, from your perspective, is most indicative of your work on this, and what are you most proud of in that episode?
Well, it was difficult to choose which episode. I mean, that was the first thing, because I've never had to do this before. And I'm working with my second in command, Natalie Abazadeh. We were going, well, which one do we choose? Because in every episode, there is stuff that we've both done. And we just chose 5 because it was an accumulation of what had gone before. And we loved doing Otis. I love doing Otis, the crystal meth guy. And he was really lovely. And, in reality, he's quite a nice, attractive man. So it was a nice challenge to make him look really disgusting. And he was lovely to work with. But then there was also the flashes, like you got the flashes at one point when they're looking at the screen and all the different people who are pointing and what are they pointing at, and there's that flash of the dead bodies and the guy who shot her and so on and so we threw all that in, and then there was called the broken noses and stuff, and the blood, and looking back at that, and also just the hair. I mean, like Haley Reese, her hair it was great, but because she was playing a police officer, so it was always held back and tight. And you use that so that you knew when she wasn't on call and she was at home, her hair would be out and stuff. And it's using the hair to tell you what situation people are in. And then, then she rushes off and then she's back at the work, but she doesn't put her hair up. I mean, it's very, very minute, but it was using everything we could to help progress the story, wherever you can. Jodie looked fantastic. Kerry was really good at looking after her. But it was just, I mean, which episode do you choose? We chose that one.
Yeah, it also has, I mean, I'd say overall it's a very intimate series, but it also has that big protest scene. talk about your preparation for that. It's also a very climactic moment. A lot of background performers. How much prep was that to get that scene right?
Well, it was quite difficult because we had a big scene to do, and but we had to have this painting of the black paint on, and we did a lot of do you do it with two fingers, or do you use three, or do you just do the hand? And we did a lot of different takes too, and we said to Issa, "What do you like of all the different results?" And this is how the actors are going to have to do it, the ones that do it in shot, So, and then of course you've got continuity of paint streaked across the face, carrying on, which is really difficult. And you decide and then you have to decide where they're going to start losing it, but there's still remnants of it. And you're doing the people. It's funny, isn't it? People, the general public, who are our audiences, have no idea of the trauma that we go through about something as simple as some black paint on someone's face. And they think, oh yeah, you just smear it on. But it's like, no, it's not. We can't just smear it on. We've got to be able to replicate it again and again and again and everything else. So, and then getting that to, we had Icelandic people who were coming in to look after the extras when we had big call days, and trying to get them to get it right on the first go, because we didn't want to hold up the camera that much with all of that as well. And you're working with that. The whole thing was shot at night, so we were having to that was difficult as well. And just getting the Icelandic people were fine; they were used to it, but us English people and that weren't. It was difficult. So just getting them all to do that and get it looking right. And Issa is very particular, which I don't have a problem with. And I'm quite happy when people say, I don't like that, change it. And I think, okay, fine. Some people I think do, but it's like, that's your job. That's what you're there to do. But no, it worked very well in the end, but it had its moments.
Peter, congratulations on the Emmy nomination, and congratulations on True Detective Night Country.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Gold Derby's hair and makeup design panel with Emmy nominees. I'm David Buchanan, joined today by Peter Swords King from True Detective Night Country, Sean Flanigan from The Gilded Age, and Jake Garber from Fallout. So wonderful to have all of you here, and from so many different backgrounds and series and different genres. I wanted to start by asking, from each of your perspectives, what is your favorite part of the design process, from when you're either conceptualizing, perhaps you're sketching, through to kind of the end when you're bringing all this to life on screen? What is your favorite part of the process? Let's start with you, Jake.
The arrival of the first check. I think it's kind of trying to see what can be established with the palette that you're given by, or the canvas, excuse me, of the actor. So, somebody, you may have some thoughts on how things should look, but they may not have cast the people yet. So once that has been established, then now you can kind of do it. And that's kind of where you get into, okay, now we can really sit down and run with it. Other than that, it's all, ideas and flurries in your head. And until you see somebody's face, we can't do it on that person. It's not going to happen. Let's quit mucking about and get on with this face here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, it's the research. I mean, I love everything I do, but I love doing research. I love hitting my computer or going somewhere to do research. I mean, sure, I love doing period movies as well. And that's a really, when you're doing period, it's like, I've in the past I've been to the V&A and I've been up into their private rooms and seen the books that you can't see. And it's just, I could spend weeks there. I mean, you haven't got time to spend weeks, but it's just so enjoyable, don't you find?
I think you're dead on that one, because depending on the era that you're looking at, is like, I love going to museums and that. So if you have something prior to, photographs or anything like that, to be able to visit museum or, to research all that based on the stuff that's been done, and it's, that is a treat. That's a good part of it.
The research is definitely fun. I mean, that's, like, I was on a job last summer in London, and because I knew Gilded Age was starting up, I hit the National Portrait Gallery, and I was just in heaven, because again, like I was saying, it's all images, and I'm so visual. It's searching through books and like paint, old portraits and paintings, and that's where I kind of really find my inspiration.
Yeah, I agree.
I couldn't agree more. It's like I kind of go down, and then I can't turn it off. Like I get on the internet and I start searching images, and then I'm up all night, Peter. It's like the same thing. It's like
yeah, absolutely.
Especially in period work.
You've all done different. These three projects in particular are so different and unique. We've got a post-apocalyptic series, a period costume drama, a contemporary series, True Detective, and Gilded Age and Fallout. And I know you've all done a variety of projects in your past, but if you could do anything in your next project, perhaps something you've never done before or something outside of these genres, since you've been doing them, very intensive in these projects, what would you like to do next that maybe you haven't had a chance to do before? Let's start with you, Sean.
I've never really have gotten to do a lot of 20s and 30s. I've done a lot of 50s and 60s here in the States. That's kind of our go-to is 50s and 60s and 70s. Many shows that are, here in the US are done that way. So getting to Gilded 1880s, we don't do them here in the States. That's England. England gets all the fun period drama. So when I saw for this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's heaven. But again, it would be amazing. I would love to get into a 20s and 30s piece. Even 40s,
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, for me, the one thing I haven't done period-wise is I want to do the 1940s. I want to do the big shoulders. I want to do that hair. It's fantastic. Yeah, I've got everything for me for the 40s would just be fantastic. And the only other one I haven't done, I had never done a cowboy movie. So maybe,
Careful what you wish for. I bet on a few things that can be a bit trying. Not discounting the Icelandic conditions or anything, but Westerns. I've done a couple of things along those lines, and there's definitely an element of the environment, dealing with the animals. Not they're fun. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
Boy, can they be a lot of work. And there's and by the way, there's no way you're going to keep your set kit clean. There's just no way. It's just dust aplenty all over it. So you have to keep it all locked up.
That's on Gilded, but we've got the horses in the carriage, and then we've got the dirt street. It's like, just know you're going to be muddy and dirty.
Yeah. As far as stuff that I don't know. I've done quite a bit of stuff, and I tend to look for something that would be like a really good character makeup on somebody. And obviously a good performer would be great. I truly enjoy working with with Walton and Samuel Jackson and the like, but I really do like doing that. And I always find that the thing that I always kind of like to try to do is for lack of a better word, the invisible makeup, where you're on set and somebody kind of says, "Oh, what was done?" To me, that's one of the ultimate compliments. Instead of somebody coming in and said, "Oh, that's a nice mustache," it's like, "Oh God, I failed," as opposed to just coming in. And matter of fact, I was doing Inglourious Bastards, and there was obviously a lot of blood and gore and that sort of stuff with scalpings and the like. But I had done a makeup on one of the German actors as Goebbels, and he had a false nose and some plugs behind his ears to flare him out a little bit, and then his hairline was changed. But I was on set, and the crew was asking, "Is somebody being dispatched today, or there's something, why are you here today?" And I considered that, high praise, so those type of character things are things that I really, seek.
From your time on these three series, can you think back on perhaps your favorite day of production when everything came out exactly as you wanted, even if maybe the process to get there was arduous? Is there a particular memory or moment from your time on these that stands out? Sean, I see you shaking your head, so let's go to you first.
Any of us, if you do period work and you've got a massive scene with tons of background, when you've worked so hard and you've had a team that have worked so hard to put it together, and then when you see the actors and the sets and everything come together, that's the Easter, all that background. When you see it all together, it's kind of mesmerizing. You're like, wow, we actually did this. You kind of get the chills. It's like, wow, my team pulled this together. It's amazing. It's the most rewarding when you get to see it all done like that, and everyone has got a smile on their face. Everyone's happy. It's kind of that's the most rewarding for me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is that thing about when you do stuff, but when you go out there and everyone, and it is, Jake's really right. It's a compliment when everyone looks fantastic, but no one actually comes up and tells you, oh, that's a great prosthetic, or that's a great, they just accept the way everyone looks. And it's like, I have done my job. This is great, you know. And that happens on every film I think we've ever done. I mean, you do this stuff. I've done other films where the directors called me over and said, "Oh God," they're going, "Oh God, the director wants to see you," and you go, "Oh, what now? What have I got to change?" Here you go, and they come over and they just say, and they're there in front of the screen, and they just say, "I just want to say thank you because look at this picture you created," and it's like, one, it's all for you. I haven't done anything wrong, and it's two, it's like it's really thank you. Thank you. And it's not picking out anything. It's just going what you have created with the hair and makeup and everything. Oh, so along with costumes and everything else. But what you have created is this fantastic picture in front of me. And you go, thank you very much.
I think the point where I kind of get the goosebumpy part is there's so much, if you're lucky enough to have testing prior and all that stuff, but you're seeing all elements kind of being assembled, piecemeal. So it's like he's tried his wardrobe on, or they've got, this is what the hair is going to look like, or this is what the set's going to look like. But it's that first day when all the parts come together.
Mm-hmm.
And not just on a visual level, but on a performance level. And you see that this thing that was just on a piece of paper has now come to life in 3 dimensions, and it's the whole package that you see. That to me, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now, is I think that's what I get a charge out of right there, is when they see that world come to life.
Yeah, no, sure.
You each have on each of these shows just extraordinary casts. This season of Night Country, Gilded Age, and those theater actors, and of course Walton and everybody else on Fallout. I just wanted to ask you about working with, when you have such wonderful performers to work with, what are those collaborations like, and how nice is it, especially on a returning series like, I know Gilded is now in production on season 3, Fallout will be coming back. When you get to return to those same performers year after year and continue to design for them, what is that experience like for you as designers, to get to develop that over time and perhaps over years and years? Peter, let's start with you.
Hey, well, as I said, I'm new to doing these series because I mean that normally doesn't happen. I mean, I'm doing an individual film, and then I move on. But there again, then you get the thing is, I've worked with certain directors. One being Rob Marshall. I've done about 5 or 6 films with him now, and that's great when you get back to with some same person, and you develop this shorthand, which is really great, which means you can work faster and easier because you know that I'm not going to do that. He's not going to like it. He's not going to like it. I'm not doing it. I'm not even going to waste my time now. Whereas on the first project, you might well have done, but now and you have this thing with I had this thing with Rob where one day after we started rehearsals and stuff, he'll say, "Right, you and me then," and he and I go off and we sit down and we just go through the whole cast. There's no one else there. It's just him and me, and we just go through and it's perfect. And then once we've done that, I would just then go off and start work and do, because I know, and you have that rapport. And it must be the same for the other guys when you're on site season 3 or something or whatever. There is a shorthand, and I've done the other 2 seasons. Now I really know where we're going. I know, and I can make this easier for people. I can make it, I've got time to be a bit more flamboyant if I can be, or more gruesome if I can, or whatever. You're allowed that time.
Yeah, for us, it's like, our cast is so amazing. In fact, they're all theater trained, and as we've all experienced, we've had actors or somebody who'll come in, have opinions and want certain things. I will say, this job specifically, this cast sits down in the chair and goes over their scripts, we do their hair, they look up and they're like, this is great. And no, I mean, so we've had the luxury on Gilded to get to create and just let loose. So it's been really, really a blessing to have a cast that just will own what you put on them. And I think we've all had that experience with actors that, you know, when you have that experience, you're like, it makes your work so much better because I think you have much more passion in it. You want to make them happier because you know that they'll love it, but you want to say, how far can I go with it? What can I top? How can I get it better? And that's the joy in what we're doing. Like season 3, we had our pre-production meeting, and the one compliment I can say with Michael Engler, our director, is like, we sat down, we were going through the cast like we always do, like, you know, you were talking about, and we got to a certain point in the meeting, and Michael finally said to everybody, like, whatever Nikki and Sean are going to come up with, we'll be fine with. And that was the hugest compliment to me, because that was the trust in your, you know, your main director and your producer. So that to me is like, okay, I've made my mark here. Now I have to step it up. How do I make sure I maintain that level and build it higher? So, and then they keep adding more characters. Season 3 is chock full of more characters. So it keeps pushing me further in my design. And how do I create? How do I represent? And the storylines are all changing, and there's different groups of cast coming in, and you want to represent properly and not let anyone down. So as a department head or designers, I mean, I'm sure we all have the same feeling. My friend, my coworkers all laugh at me because they're like, you go home and you never turn it off. You're on the weekends, you're thinking about it. You're always, even my friends outside of the work are like, okay, what are you thinking about? And they'll start asking me questions, and I just can't turn it off. Like it's a problem we have as designers, I think.
First, I used to call that the scroll. The scroll was when you go home at night and you close your eyes and you see the list of things that have accomplished on your eyelid. You can't close your eyes tight enough, and it just kind of keeps going. But in regards to the, you know, the comment about going back and, you know, working with some similar people again, there's definitely a shorthand that happens with that sort of stuff. But also too, I find that it's really a treat to watch, because actors handle things differently. And I mean, in broad strokes, I could say some people work inside out, some work outside in. So there's some actors that are using stuff that's internal stuff, but there's plenty of actors, and I'm sure that you guys have dealt with them as well, where all of a sudden there is a piece of artifice that is placed on them, that, you know, a wig goes on them, and they all of a sudden you just see the look gets focused in the mirror, and all of a sudden something has triggered something in them to say, and we help them find the character via that route. And you know, it's a great collaboration on that level, whether it's subtle or broad, you know.
Before I let you all go, I just want to ask you too about origin stories. Do you have a particular memory of seeing a film, a TV series, a theatrical production that inspired you to do the work that you do? How did you become the wonderful designers that you've developed into? We see Jake is
reference my Frankenstein poster back there. When I was, I think, I don't know, I might have been like, you know, 9 years old or something like that. That was one that hit a nerve. Yeah.
I mean, I would say, have you got another 4 or 5 hours? Because I can go through. Do you know? I mean, it's like everything from a very early age. I mean, I remember when I was 9 or 10, I used to go to thrift stores, and I used to buy things like, I used to find books. I never found a book about makeup. I mean, God knows, I've been about Lon Chaney Jr., and all these really old, and was fascinated by what they were doing to them then to themselves, you know, how they did things. And it's just, I was a very good little boy when I was young, apart from when there was a film on the television. It's the only time I'd scream and be difficult because I wanted to watch the end of the movie. It's the only time. Other than that, I think I was absolutely perfect. I don't think I was really. It was the only time my parents had to sort of, but they always gave in and let me watch the film, whatever it was. So I've been in films since I can't, you know, since I literally can remember. And they've been, everything's influenced me, everything. In theatre, I started in theatre, you know, and then I went to opera before I got into films. yeah, all that stuff, especially for me, I think I'm the oldest one here, but for all that stuff, that knowledge, that learning you do. I mean, I do, you know, when I did The Hobbit, I used techniques that I used in the theatre 30 years before to make it easier and simpler. Great. I mean, if you'd seen some of the things I did, you would go, you can't do that, you know, but I did. And so yeah, so it's everything's an influence. Everything's an influence. Walking down the street and seeing some crazy person or whatever, it goes into it's almost like having a photographic brain, and you remember that person, and then 20 years later you go, oh, I remember that guy I saw. Fantastic. So you know,
And then
it
and
does
then
a switch.
Peter, and knowing that the director or someone, no one would ever wear that or would look like that. And you're like, actually, I've got a photo of that because this was on the
Exactly.
street.
Hello.
Here it is. So
I
that's fun.
reference.
You get to that. Yeah, photo references. For me though,
Yeah.
it's like I go back. I was a theater kid. I started performing when I was a dancer. I started performing when I was 12 on stage, and then I danced until I was about 30. So I did a weird transition into hair. But I grew up in, watching the 30s and 40s MGM musicals. I mean, those I just couldn't get enough. I became mesmerized. Hairstyles, and again, the 30s and 40s, all the sculpture and the shapes and just the glamour was I just couldn't get enough of it. And so my parents just laughed at me because I would watch movies over and over and over. I mean, just seeing like the Sound of Music, the Countess's hair, the way it was sculpted and the shapes, and it's like the waves. It kind of like burned memories into my head, and so I think that's part of how I just got engulfed in this creative world. I mean, it's a fantasy for me. So it's kind of I don't know, it's a magical world that I get to play in every day. So I'm thankful that I have this opportunity.
I think a quick interject was that, we were all of a certain age where when we saw that stuff, we would revisit it, whether it was on TV or go to the movie theater, because we didn't have, the VHS wasn't prevalent at that point. You didn't know when you were going to see this film ever again. So there's a reason that a lot of people from a generation can quote films because they burned it into their head because they didn't know when they were going to see it again. And if they did see it again on TV, it was probably going to be edited or cut down. So, and now everything is readily accessible and all that stuff. But again, in the era that we were there, it was like you went there and you sponged it up. It was just something that was going to, come in, and it referenced to the, having the, photographic memories on a lot of, characters.
Yeah.
You see people on the street, whatever, whether,
That's true. I mean, because when I
Yeah.
started watching, of course, television was still black and white. They hadn't even got color then. So it was great to watch the old movies because they were in black and white anyway. But oh yeah, yeah, all day, all day. I mean, I'm still like it now. I could probably still watch up to about 8 films a week, easily, no problem. I love
I still
films. So
have to watch them over and over again. And there's stuff I'll watch all the time. And people like, you've seen it over. I'm like, I know, but there's something for me, it's calming. It's like relaxing. I can fall back into that world of just the magic of all of it for me. I don't know. It's a
people.
and you know all the lines. You know all the lines, so you can join in with them because you've watched it so many times. You know what's coming. I think I know every word all about Eve. I think I've watched it about 50 times. So
I think there's a point where, there's people listen to music multiple times. There's no reason why you can't have, movies or television or plays the same way.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
And even on a play, it's a different show every night. So that's another thing that's you don't get the repetition of it. So
Absolutely true. Peter, Jake, and Sean, congratulations on the Emmy nominations. Congratulations on these wonderful series. Thank you for talking to Gold Derby today.
Thank you very much.
You guys. See you guys all there, hopefully.
I'll be there.
Yeah. See you there.
Okay. Best of luck, everybody.
Hey guys, nice to meet you.